Okay, Digital Warriors, welcome back. Sure, you guys probably been wondering what I've been doing, and I haven't been playing a whole lot of traditional video games. So I've been kind of caught up playing some pretty hardcore strategy games, and I wanted to get into something a little bit larger with a little bit more depth to it in both scale and grandeur, if you will. So instead of the typical tactical level war games that I usually play, I wanted to take something on a little bit more challenging, and I bumped it up to the operational level. And you guys should know, there's three different levels of warfare. There's strategic, operational, and tactical. Tactical being something, very platoon focused, engagements, and then you go up to a little bit larger, operational level where it's more battalion company size, and then strategic, which is a nation trying to enforce its policy by use of uh, combat applications, if you will. That's just a general, really shitty overview explanation, but those are the three different types of levels of warfare. So what I've been playing, I've been learning this game, and this game is Day of Days, The Invasion of Normandy, 1944, and it's done by the Gamers and Multiman Publishing, and this is on Vassal, and this is actually a hex encounter tabletop board game that you'd normally play, but I'm playing the Vassal version here. The rules are available. Um, this is part of the SCS, the Standard Combat Series system of rules that's been around since the early to mid 90s. They've been refined. The rules are designed to be more of a pick up and play type of game where it's really simple to learn, number one, and it plays fairly quickly. Anybody can learn the system. That's how easy it is. So what we're doing here is, again, Day of Days, Invasion of Normandy, 1944. It's one of my favorite military subjects, is the Invasion of Normandy, for that matter. It's one of my favorite subjects of World War II, anyway. And what I thought I would do is, again, I'm still learning this game. I'm trying to get it down, this system of rules, and it's going to be easier for me to learn the game by doing. And so if I can teach you guys, how to play this as well, or, open your eyes, or maybe even generate interest, well, then good. So I know, a lot of my subs and viewers, they like this type of stuff. So, and I enjoy it too. I like the mental challenge and the mental exercise that I get out of it. So you can actually do the entire invasion, and you can see how huge the map is. I'm not going to do that. What we're going to focus on is the invasion of Utah Beach, or the American landings at Utah Beach, and try to accomplish the objectives and the victory conditions that are set out for the Americans. And likewise, because we'll be playing the Germans as well, we'll have to switch our mindset in order to defeat the Americans, or stifle uh, and stop them from doing what they're trying to do. So I'm going to break this series down into a couple different videos, just to kind of give you guys a taste, and an easy way just kind of ease you into learning it, because again, I'm still learning. So just a quick overview. Again, this is hex encounter, warfare. This is old school warfare. Um, if we look at a unit, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of how to read the units. So you can see, obviously, the gray units, those are Germans. The green units are Americans. You can see unit designations on all of the chits. If you know the NATO symbols, that's going to help you guys out. But if you continue to watch the series, I'm going to be using them so much, and I'll point them out that you guys should be able to learn them. It's a fairly easy system to learn. But basically, let's take a look at this unit right here. Let's drop that stack. All right, so this chit here, I'm going to tell you, all the pertinent information here, because all the information you need to know is on the chits. So this first number here, this 2, that's its attack strength. The 4, the second number, is its defensive value. And the third number over here is its movement allowance, or movement points, if you will, how far it can move, how many hexes. Obviously, terrain is going to either help you or hinder you. So, moving on roads, you're going to be able to move further. Moving through swamps, you're going to be slower, that type of stuff. And of course, there's terrain that's, impassable unless you take a bridge or, you know, whatnot. Then you have the NATO symbol here. This is the Airborne NATO symbol. This square with the X and the little airborne wings you can see under here. That designates an airborne unit. That line up here means it's a company. And then the F2, so this is Foxtrot Company. All right, so this is F Company of the 2nd Battalion, or excuse me, Foxtrot Company of the 2nd Battalion of the 507th Infantry of the 82nd Airborne Division here. And this number here, this 2 with a red circle, this in a yellow box, that's how many steps it has. So it's basically how many hit points, if you can think of it that way. So it can take 2 hits before it's killed. So every time it takes damage, you would flip it over, and you can see the unit gets weaker. It gets this white outline around it, and that step goes down 1. So we're going to flip that back. And the Germans have the same, you know, symbols and whatnot on their units. And what we're going to do here is, let me zoom out just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and do the initial airborne landings. So for each of these huge stacks here, we're going to have to roll to see how they land, because if you know anything about the Normandy invasion, you know that the American airborne units, both the 82nd and 101st, they were scattered all over the place. A lot of them missed their intended drop zones. And that's what we're going to have to roll dice for to simulate. And then we'll get into the actual landings over here. But first, let's do the airborne. So what you do, and let me pop out of this. Here's the rules. Again, like I said, it's an easy system to learn. The series rules here, this is the newest version of 1.8. It was updated in September 2015, Standard Combat Series. It's only 8 pages. It's super, super simple. I mean, it's an easy game to learn. The last page is just designer notes, so really it's only 7 pages. And that's the series rules, because there's multiple different themed games that use this set of rules, and then each specific game has its own set of rules as well that either augment or change, you know, some of the standard rules. But so this is the actual module rulebook. This here on the right is the Day of Days rulebook, and this is the newest one. It was revised in 2000. Matter of fact, this game came out in 2015, came out last summer. And even though it says it's 52 pages, it's not really. I think it's maybe 8 pages again, or 7 pages of rules, and then the rest is just information of how to set up the game, what hexes to put what units, and stuff like that. So all of this stuff, this isn't rules. This is just, you know, scenarios and reinforcement tables and things like that. But we'll get into that as well. So, and then it gives you a breakdown of all the different NATO symbols here, and this unit symbol key, which I've already explained to you guys. So what we need to do for the first section, we'll hop back into the game here. And again, this is on Vassal. If we look at the standard operating procedure, let's bring up our turn chart. So we're in turn 1 here, which is actually, each turn is actually 12 hours. So there's an AM turn and a PM turn. Or each turn, I'm sorry, each turn is half a day. So you can see, like on turn 3, that's the morning of June 6th, that's D-Day, where turn 4 is the afternoon and evening of June 6th, and so forth and so on. That really starts on turn 3. The first 2 turns are the first 2 initial waves of the invasion. So that consists of the airborne landings and some of the preliminary bombardment from the Allied naval ships. And then, you know, obviously some German, you know, barrages, Allied movement, Allied barrage, and then Allied combat. And then you go into wave 2, and then you basically repeat that. And then not until turn 3 is when you start using the actual turn sequence. And then you'll use this long turn sequence for every turn after turn 3. So what we need to do, since we're on wave 1, is we need to do the airdrops, which is turn 1 only. So how do you do the airdrops? Well, if we look at the rules here, basically, and I'm not going to read this all out to you guys, it's super simple. We're going to roll a dice. So if we start here, and I'm going to actually move this entire stack out of the way. They start on this DZ. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see. This stack here, in a perfect world, they would all land perfectly healthy here at the 82nd Airborne Designated Landing Zone DZT, or DZ Tango. But we know that didn't happen. So what we need to do is for each individual unit here, and each one of these is a company, we need to roll 1d6, which is right up here, and then this number is a 3. So what is a 3? We would roll it here for all U.S. airdrops on turn 1, roll 1 dice for each landing. On a 1, it lands normally. 2 to 4, it suffers a step loss, in addition to any step loss incurred by landing, and a 5 or 6, it is dispersed. So what is, that probably all sounds like gibberish, right? Not really. So he rolled a 3, which means he's going to take a step loss. And then we're going to stick him right here for right now, because we're not quite done with them, because once we get everybody, find out how they landed, then we're going to roll for dispersion and see where they landed. And then after that, we need to roll to see if they took damage or extra damage from their final landing spot. So we're just going to blow through these. He's another 3. He's a 4. He's a 1, so he lands healthy for now. He's a 2. He's going there. Another 1. Another 1. This is actually, and I've played this scenario a couple times. That's actually pretty good. Nobody's dispersed, which is a first for me. So what we need to do now is we need to roll for scatter. And so if we look here, we have a scatter diagram. So if we're looking at this central hex here, we're going to roll 1d6. We're actually going to roll 2 dice. The first one being the direction that they go, and the second one dictating how many hexes that they move, the distance from the landing zone hex. And then we're going to subtract 1 from the distance per the rules in here. So it says after the, where is it? Yes. So using the scatter diagram, another for distance, subtract 1 from the distance, so a result of 0 is possible. So it is possible, if we roll a 1 on the distance, that they actually hit their intended landing zone. So let's go ahead and, again, I'm going to move them out of the way so I can see the landing zone. We need to roll 2d6 for each one. So he's going to go in the direction of 3 for 2 hexes, because remember we're gonna subtract 1. So he's going to go 1, 2, because that would be 1, that would be 2, that would be 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we just need to do this for all of them. So he hits the landing zone. 2, he's going to go 1 hex away. 6 is going to go 1 hex away. 2 is going to go 5 hexes away. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going to hit the zone. He's going to go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 is going to go 2, 1, 2. Actually, he's going to go 1. And the last guy here is going to hit the DZ. So that's not an actual bad landing result for that stack of 82nd there. That's actually pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and blow through the rest of these guys using the exact same procedure. So he's damaged. All right, so this guy rolled a 6, and a 5 or 6 means we're going to take a step loss, so we take some damage, and then they're going to become dispersed. And I use a label, because I'm going to label an entire stack if there's more in there. I'll label a stack with them and set them aside, and I'll explain that once we get done through this stack of guys here. So that's another dispersed roll. Lands there. See, I shouldn't have opened my mouth, because this stack looks like it's getting hammered. Alright, and a 4. Oh, now this guy here, if you guys recall, he only has 1 step. He's a 1-hit unit. So he took damage in the drop, and he's actually killed. See, if we flip him, there's nothing on his flip side. So we're going to send him to the graveyard. So we're going to lose those engineers right off the bat. And then let's go ahead and roll the scatter for this group here. 5 and 1. Put him there. 6 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 4. 1, 2, 3. 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3. 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the last guy is a 3 and 3. So he's actually going to land there. And then I'm going to stick the stack of dispersed. Now what this means, these dispersed guys, um, these guys really aren't on the map yet. They'll come in on turn 4, and that's basically to simulate all of these guys getting lost in the French countryside, in the Normandy countryside, and it's taken them that long to regroup at their rally points. So these guys who are labeled dispersed, don't pay any attention to them. They don't have anything to do until turn 4. And let's go ahead and do this last stack of 82nd, and then we'll move on to the 101st. And again, it's the exact same process. We just need to roll for damage, and he's going to be dispersed. There we go. So he'll be the label countered there. So I'm sure we'll get more dispersed guys. He lands fine. He lands fine. I don't want to say it, but I'm actually getting some decent rolls here. This doesn't usually happen. Usually these airborne units take a beating, even though we're not quite out of the woods yet. It wasn't too bad. All right. Roll for scatter. 2 and 1. All right, so here's an interesting thing. If you land on top of an enemy unit, you automatically take a step loss. So thank God that this guy didn't get hurt in the initial drop here, and he still has 2 steps. But because he would have landed here on this German artillery unit, he's got to take a step loss, and then we can put him in any of these hexes surrounding. I just roll a random number, so 3, so that's going to be there. Oops, I need to roll that. 6, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to put him 6, 1. That's right there. 2, 4. That's 3, 1, 2, 3. 2, 1, 2. And the last guy, 2. So he's going to see. He's going to end up getting killed because I rolled a 2, so that's direction 2, and a distance of 2, but we subtract 1, so that would put him on top of that German unit as well in St. Mary-Glise. So he's only has 1 step left, so we're going to send him to the graveyard. And we'll put those dispersed guys right there. And we're on to the 101st. Let's see how they fare. All in all, the 82nd really came out okay, which is surprising. But again, we're not quite out of the woods just yet. There. Come on, let's get a good roll. Not a bad roll. All right, so let's roll for scatter. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's actually going to hit the DZ. That's good. 1, 2, 5 would be 1, 2. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Shoot. So he's going to take a step loss, unfortunately, and we'll roll to see where he goes. Right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guy landed all the way out there in the swamp. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And since we have somebody who landed there on the DZ, we're just going to put our dispersed guys right next to it just as a reminder so we don't forget. All right, so we got 2 more stacks of 101st to roll through. Not bad. Really not bad. All right, and let's scatter them. All right, it's 4 and 1. Four. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 and 2, huh? So that'll be, ooh, actually, that's just going to be right there. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 6 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's all the way up there. All right. So let's get this last stack done. And you know, there's other LZs as well, and these will come into play with some of the reinforcements. That's where they end up landing, like the glider battalions and things like that. That come in on the. When they come in, I think they come in on like the 2nd or 3rd wave. Don't quite remember. So he's dispersed. It's dispersed. It's not a good way to start out. Need these guys down here in the south, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Although I guess I can't really complain. We've had some pretty... oh, that guy's dead. Send to graveyard. Alright. So as you can see, all of these guys got dispersed. So we're not going to see these guys until turn 4. Which is going to be a real big bummer, because that means we only have 3 guys down here. Shit. We got to roll for scatter for these dudes. He hits the DZ. He hits the DZ. 6 before. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's all the way up there. Alright, so now that we have the final resting places of the scattered airborne units of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions, now we have to roll one more damage check. And it's basically right here. So place units. After a unit has reached its final hex, roll 1 dice for the airdrop losses based on the terrain. So what we're going to do is, let me go ahead and zoom in on some units here. I'll go ahead and start off on the left. I work, when I play games like this, I work left to right. It's just easier to keep track of, I find. And I tend to try to line up the bottom of my screen here with the units. That way I know when I go down to the south where to stop. It's easier to manage, less clutter, less confusion. All right, so we're going to start with this guy here. Bravo Company of the 1st Battalion of the 508th. Oh, excuse me. So what we need to do, what that said, or what I read here, we've got to take the terrain damage, airdrop losses based on terrain effects. We're going to roll a dice. Well, first I should bring up the terrain chart here. So you can see there's various different kinds of terrain in this game. And here's the terrain key, which explains it, you know, clear, beach, light bocage, heavy bocage, woods, blah, 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 blah. Well, each one of these different terrain types comes associated with a different, you know, movement cost, a different combat adjustment, a different barrage. Think of barrage as artillery or mortar fire adjustment, whether they can be overrun in that, you know, particular terrain, or if there's a potential to take losses when parachuting into this type of terrain. So if we look at this unit here, he's in light bocage, which is here, and it has a airdrop of 1. What this means is we need to roll a single die, and if we roll a 1, we're going to take a damage, 1 damage point. So we roll, he rolled a 5, so he's perfectly fine. So we have to do that for each one. So if we look at this guy, he's in a flooded hex. If I roll a 2 or less, he's going to take a point of damage. He's perfectly fine. So these guys on the DZ, they're in a light bocage as well. He's fine because light bocage is a 1. If it was over here in this heavier stuff, he would have taken a damage in the heavy bocage. He's fine, and he is killed. So Bravo 1, the first of the 507th, is sent to the graveyard. So these guys here are in swamp, so 2 or less, no. Oops. Light bocage for them, sent to the graveyard. And you can see here's where it starts to thin out some of the units. So here, even though there's a river here, you use the flooded. If you look down here on the chart, it says OT. That means use the other terrain in the hex. So it's going to be a flooded roll. He's perfectly fine. It says city. Nope. And we just go down the line. Sent to the graveyard, that guy. So sorry. All right, scooting on over. Fine. Good to go. Let's see. Oh, those are my. We don't need to roll for the dispersed units because technically they're not on the board yet. So he's fine.
What do you want?
He's fine.
Huh?
Oh, actually, let me redo these two. There is a rule: if you land near in an adjacent hex to an enemy unit, you subtract 2 off the dice roll. So actually, I lucked out on rolling 2 6s here. So these 2 units are actually okay. So let me roll this guy. 5 minus 2 would be 3. That's still all right. Let's get him. Another 6, another high roll. He's fine. He takes a damage. And he's going to, he takes a damage because I rolled a 2, which would normally put him over the roll for light bocage of 1, but because he's near an enemy unit, we subtract 2. So he would technically have a 0, which is lower than 1. So that's why he takes that hit. And let's see what happens to this guy. He's killed. He's okay. He's killed. All right. And moving right over, moving along. Good. Good. Those guys are dispersed. Killed. And killed. All right. So now we need to go. Let's bring our map back to the left. And right about there. All right. No, he's not in that town. He's fine. Good to go. Good to go. Killed. Now this one's gonna hurt because he needs to get a 2 or less, or I'm sorry, a 3 or higher, because he's in a flooded hex, and then another -2. So he essentially needs a 5 or 6. He gets the 5. Nice. That's good too because he landed on that bridge hex, which is going to be important in the incoming invasion. Is he next to a bad guy? Yeah, he is. But he's good. So we're just finishing up this little bit here. He's sent to the graveyard. There's a lot of units down here down south. It's going to be a very difficult fight down here near Carentan until I get the units off the beach. All right, so that's it for the airborne landings. And let me zoom out here. We lost quite a few units in the jump, but this is it. This is where we're sitting at as far as the initial airdrop. As far as victory for the allied player, what we want is these victory hexes, which are these hexes here that have stars in them. So we definitely want C and D. And these C, D, B, A, these are all entry point hexes, and we're only playing in the area here marked off to the left of this red line here. That's our area of operations, if you will. So we want to take these starred hexes. You know, those are going to garner us victory points, which we need to win. So the big things we want to do is we want to get a lot of units across these two bridges. I'm going to hide units here. We want to get units across these bridges here at Chef DuPont and to the west of La Fière. It's a bridge hex here. That way we can stave off this German entry area here and claim those two hexes. We want to try to get up here to Montberg, claim these hexes. Obviously, Carentan is a big one. This is going to be a difficult fight because the Germans they start off. You know, we've got the 6 Fallschirmjägers, which are, I mean, look at their stats: 3 attack, 6 defense, 6 movement, and they're 2-step units. That's going to be a difficult fight. It always is down here in Carentan. The Germans have some armored support and a few other entry hexes. And we want to take this hex here. We want to have a line of supply to this hex is 2701, because essentially, if we capture that or have a line of supply, that's basically linking up with Omaha Beach, and we'll go over all that stuff once, you know, as we get closer to it, as we, you know, dictate our strategy. As far as the landings go, the actual beach landings, as you can see, the Germans have these strong points here. They're very nasty, very high damage. Hopefully we can take them out with our initial artillery bombardment from both the ships, airstrikes and things like that. And we'll find out where we land. Ideally, we're going to want, if you look at these colored hexes, these are the landing zones. So Terre Green and Uncle Red, this is where the Allies were supposed to land. This is where the Americans were supposed to land, in this area here of Utah Beach. These white hexes down here, Victor, this is where they historically landed. So historically, the Americans drifted a little bit further south and landed here versus hitting their objectives up north. It's a little bit easier, and there's a random roll that we'll roll to see where we land exactly. But it's a little bit easier, you know, to land historically down here and take these trails out of the swamp here, because it's less defended versus butting our heads up against, you know, all these strong points. But again, hopefully we can reduce these strong points in our bombardment. So I'm going to cut the video here, guys. Again, as you can see, our airborne units are scattered to the wind. We actually rolled pretty good. Just that last stick of airborne units down here in the south. This is going to put a damper on things because we really kind of wanted those guys to push a little bit further south and start, you know, engaging these German units and start kind of opening the way to Carentan. But we'll deal with it, you know, as best we can. One thing before I go, we do have reinforcements that come in. So if you look here, this is turn 4. We're going to get, you know, some glider infantry here at LZ Echo. A lot of these we don't have to worry about because they don't apply. Like we're not doing, you know, the Commonwealth landing, so we're not going to worry about the British 6 Airborne. We're not doing Omaha Beach, Gold Juno Sword. We're not doing all those. Really, we're just concerned with the American Airborne and the ones at Utah Beach. And these are our reinforcements, you know, coming in the beach. And this spans from turns 4, you know, all the way up to turn 22. And those guys will be funneling in, obviously, from our beachhead here once we establish it. But let's get an overview here. That's it. So like I said, I'm going to cut this video short here, and it's a pretty long-winded video. But the next one will cover the actual initial beach landings here at Utah Beach, and then it'll go into the preliminary bombardment. So again, that's going to be airstrikes. Hopefully we get airstrikes depending on the weather roll, and naval bombardments. Of course, the Germans will get their shot too, to do some damage and to kind of stifle the initial beachhead. you know, as we go along. So if you look at the for waves 1 and 2, right now we just did airdrops. We'll knock out preliminary bombardments easy, landings are easy. All this will go pretty quickly. So in the next video we'll cover that. We may even, if I decide to make it a long one, we'll go ahead and knock out the rest of wave 1 here and do wave 2 because it's essentially the same thing, and then come back when we do turn 3, which is a little bit more in depth, a little bit more involved. As far as like direct combat and things like that go. But all right, hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope this interests you. Again, I'll leave links in the description of the video if you guys want to check this out on your own, or you know, if you want to play along with me or read the rules along with me while you're watching the videos. If you're into this type of stuff and you're into these, you know, strategy like games, you know, don't be. There's no need to be overwhelmed by them. Especially the SCS, the Standard Combat Series. You know, like I said, it's an easy system to learn. Anybody can do it. So, all right, guys, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit subscribe so you can catch the next video. And I will catch you later. Bye.